And there we go. Oops, I gotta hit this button here. And there we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. Believe it or not, here I am with another Native American myths and legends. Oh, shoot, I gotta hit some things, some buttons here. Got it. Okay. Shrink, shrink, shrink. I'm running two screens. I'm waiting for David Null to come on. He's running a little bit late, but thank you all for coming. We're going to have a great show tonight. We're going to talk some history and we're going to talk some myths and legends. As usual, we're going to talk about the Native Americans from days gone by. It's going to be a really good show. We got a bit of history. I picked out some really good stuff in this book here that I really love. It is, what is this book called? It is called The American Heritage Book of Indians. I really love this book. I wish I could find another one that was as good. Hey, Doug Stack, Susie Q, Elderberry's in the house. Thank you all for coming. I'm doing the impromptu. David Knowles is on his way. But don't you worry, he's going to boot up and he'll be in here in a little bit. But for now, I'm going to get going on some of this stuff so I don't bore you because you know how it is. You can't have dead air. Of course, oh yeah. Tonight we're going to learn a little bit about the Toltecs. I don't know if you ever heard about the Toltecs, but they were very interesting. Uvanda, hey, Delaney Pearl Jones, you got your package. I'm glad. Hey, David Castle's in the house. Don't you worry, you guys probably were over at Raised by Giants. I'm glad Ryder puts on a heck of a good show. Please go subscribe to his channel, and I hope he sends people over here to subscribe to my channel because we're all one big happy family. And did you know, anyway, Delaney, I hope you got your package. I hope you like what was in there. I throw you in a little extra. If you enjoy, I know I bet you weren't expecting all of that either. But anyway, one of these days, now you owe me, Delaney. You got to come on when you get a good internet connection. Well, I want to have you on the show sometime. Okay, that's the deal. Anyway, there's David Null. Thank you for coming, David. I am glad that you made it. It's too many late nights for you.
Better late than never, but I'm so sorry. I fell asleep. Oh my goodness gracious. But anyway, how's everybody doing?
You got me. My heart a pounding, and I kept thinking, oh my gosh, how do I get somebody over to his house to pound on his door?
I ain't dead yet. Oh gracious me. I'm embarrassed. I'm usually
yeah, usually you're 10 minutes early, and I'm like, well, it's 5-2. I'm calling. No answer. Did you wake you up?
Yeah.
Oh,
I was like, who's calling me at this time of the night? And I went, oh, holy crud.
It's a good thing I got your phone number.
No.
That's all right. That's all right. Yeah. Anyway, let's see. What else was I going to say? David Castle's in the house. Susie Q. I got Zoom on my new phone. Oh, Delaney's got Zoom on her new phone. All right, Delaney, that's it. You're coming on the show one of these days. I hope to get you on, and I want to talk about ghost spirits and all that, because you're really into that, and I am just fascinated by it. So you're coming on, and we're going to talk about all of that stuff. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. And then you're going to talk a little bit about the Zulu tribe that you were talking about too. So there you go. Anyway, Claudette's in the house. There you go. Thank you for coming. Thank you everybody for coming. I'm glad. I could not do a show without all of you. It just, remember, leave some comments below. It helps with the YouTube algorithms. And give it a thumbs up and all of that stuff, because then YouTube pushes it out more. And it's not so much, but then it sends out notifications to all of you. And YouTube, as you know, can be really funny about sending out notifications. It can be funny about you know, what it posts and what it doesn't. And I don't want to get taken down because, well, that guy's a nothing burger. We're just going to wipe him under the cover because he said something bad. So there you go. Hey, Elderberry. Anyway, David, I hope you got some stories picked out.
I do.
You do. I'm going to ask you. I got stories picked out too, or well, stories, but a thing. And I know what type of animal this one's going to deal with today. I hope you picked out the same animal.
We'll see.
All right. This is going to be interesting. Anyway, I wanted to start out with the Toltecs. This is kind of a whole thing because I wanted to find something that history relates to modern day. Okay. And this is kind of, even with the Indian stories, it kind of relates to the modern day. Witchy Moon's in the house. Oh, yeah. Thank you for coming. Let's see. So anyway, the Toltecs. Have you ever heard of the Toltecs?
Yes.
Yes, they're from like Mexico area, down that way, South America kind of thing. Anyway, listen to this. The Toltecs. Toward the end of Mexico's classic period, hordes of barbaric nomads came raging into the Valley of Mexico from the north. These people were known collectively as Chinkmecs, people of dog lineage. Have you ever heard of that dog lineage before?
Yeah, but I can't remember where I heard it from, but keep going.
Okay. Dog lineage. I'm going to underline that because that's really interesting. People of dog lineage. And as some of you already said, dog spelled backwards is, so there you go. The arrival about 900 AD, one of such groups led by a Middle American Genghis Khan named Mixcoatl, marks the beginning of Mexico's first recorded dynasty. Mixcoatl's followers rapidly absorbed the civilized ways of the region, and in building their splendid capital, Tula, added a new vigor to a weary culture. Where there had been city-states, they established an empire. The name they chose for themselves, Toltec, eventually become synonymous for civilized person. So Toltec is civilized person. In 968, Mixcoatl's son, Quetzalcoatl, took the throne from his upspringing uncle. To the Toltec capital, this priest brought the art of metallurgy, a new calendar, and his gentle god, the feathered serpent, whose name he bore. Tula streets were lined with palaces of turquoise and shells, and through them flashed birds of magnificent plumage. Gigantic corn and squash were raised, and multitude of cotton grew in the fields. Quetzalcoatl was credited with banishing war, bribery, and even improbability death. But when he attempted to outlaw human sacrifice, the followers of angry native god Tecalipoca rose up and overthrew him. He lived on in legend and a god to many peoples, while his successor at Tula were plagued with forest fires, drought, and new invasions of barbarians. In 1168, a brilliant city of Tula was destroyed in a furious civil war, obliterated its name and location for nearly 800 years. You know what that tells me?
What's that?
It tells me no matter how civilized you get, no matter what goes on, the people will never be happy. I hate to say it. And they'll never be happy, and they won't. And then there's always that downfall. The downfall, no matter how civilized you are, they went downhill so fast that they crashed the whole thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
They literally, everything crashed. So that was the point to that one. So even without the destruction of modern white men coming in there, they destroyed themselves. So was it an inevitable thing? Okay, let's see. Okay, here's an important part. So I read this book so that you guys all don't have to, and I just pick out good stuff. Okay, here's the part I thought was very interesting. It says most experts agree that whatever hypothetical population of the hemisphere may have totaled 3/4 or more, it was concentrated in the Mexican Andrean areas, the chief targets of the early Spanish activity. In the enormous fringe area that was the North American, north of Mexico population, estimates allow only from 1 million to 2 million souls for all the percent United States, Canada, and Alaska. So you imagine all of that area, and there was only what, a couple million people, or a couple million people for all of that area. Everybody lived south of the border, you could say, where the weather was warm. This is what I could see is if you wanted food and you wanted to grow crops and you wanted good weather and you didn't have to want to heat your house and really struggle, then you'd move south of the border where the weather was warm all the time. That's what I get out of it. And that's why the population congregated or where the warmer area is. Okay, so here's another part. While the Mayan classic age flourished and withered, while the Toltecs came and went, and the Aztecs rose to eminence, these people planted their corn and pumpkins, hunted the little desert deer, and squeezed some sort of use out of nearly every plant on their sun-dazzled horizon. They had many things familiar to the belt of farming villages, and they ran all the way south to the Valley of Mexico and beyond, all the way to Central America. Little clay figurines, sometimes turban and with earrings, and often, of course, ripe, the female, a snake and a bird as the commonest religious motifs, mirrors made of flakes of iron pyrite set like mosaic work in stone plaques, ball courts after about 500 AD, and the rubber balls to go with them, and their jiggling copper dance bells were traded so widely from Central America and Mexico around 1000 AD. Someone among the Yucatan seems to have developed a process of etching using a weak acid, possibly made from fermented cactus juice. The fruit of the sagaro, source of their ceremonial wine, to etch designs on seashells that had come by trade from the Pacific area. After a century or two in the practice ceased. It may have been a single family magic secret. It is the first known use of etching in the world. So here's the thing. They did this, so somebody invented it, kept the secret, or the secret just died off. Maybe it was just a fad back then too. But and again, they used here. You notice it says they were talking about ceremonial wine. So even the Indians back there could make wine. That I thought was kind of interesting. They couldn't live without the wine. Let's see here. I got something else here. So now we move over to like the Pueblos area, and it says, okay, seen in close focus, a given Anasazi Pueblo was called a Spanish town, was a little tight, closed little world. In years past, sometimes a great many, while the people sang up the corn, called the rain with puffs of a pipe smoke and clouds of eagle down, danced together with their mother, the earth, worked together, laughed together, and gradually became grandparents, and died and watched with their mountain mahogany faces through the unchanging mass of dancing gods while their grandchildren gradually became grandparents, and nothing penetrated, nothing interrupted, nothing interfered. House timbers from a single site in the canyon of Chile, now part of the Navajo country in Arizona, give tree ring dates from 348 AD and 1284 AD. Dates from the Mesa Verde, Colorado complex of cliff pueblos, those are cliff dwellings, caves and villages, pueblos built in the open cover 1,000 years from 380 to 1273 AD. The Mesa top pueblos of Ocamba, New Mexico have continually been occupied for more than 600 years to date. The Hopis have lived on or about their same three mesas in Arizona for 1,500 years, and their modern village of Old Orabi has been continuously inhabited for some 800 years. Wow. Can you imagine? We're moving into the house, honey. It's only 1,000 years old. Don't you worry. It's been here for a long time. It's going to be good and sturdy.
Must be a cave.
Yeah, well, I suppose they build them out of mud bricks or something. There's Pamela Jean. Pamela Jean's in the house, and Michelle Can-Am Free. Much love to you, Michelle Can-Am Free, our love girl. There you go. Anyway, let's see. So then we move on to this one. I wanted to do this one. This one's kind of a little longer one, but I really, didn't want to drop that. There'd go my tea. Let's see, where is this? Oh, this one here. I think I'm going to skip that one. I'm going to go to this one. I found this really good one. This one's upper Midwest. It's called The War in the Forest. And there you go, everybody. There's the picture. War in the Forest. They make some really good pictures out of it. These were all.
Yeah, they do.
This was it's usually a drawing by somebody. It says that's an Iroquois warrior, cavalry drawn by J. Graskell de Saint de Sauveur in 1787. Banishes a tomahawk and globe-headed club. Now, that's an Iroquois warrior. Wow, I'd hate to run into him. Whew, he looks scary.
And they were fearless too. I mean, they just had no fear.
Yes, they did have no fear. They were brave. And I'll get into that. So there's like a whole page here, and a paragraph on this side. And then that'll be my part. But you'll catch the drift here in about 2 paragraphs or so when I get through which animal I'm going to be talking about. From the time of old copper people on the shores of Lake Superior until the appearance of agriculture and pottery along the upper Mississippi was perhaps 4,000 years. From the time of the first cultivated corn until the high point of the Hopewell burial mound building dates was perhaps 500 years, give or take a few centuries. From a high point of the immense Hopewell Confederacy, as it seemed to be, until the general invasion of the Europeans along the Atlantic coast was perhaps about another 1,000 years or more. Besides the lakes and the rivers, in the occasional parklands, and in the long reaches of unbroken forest in the Northwest, a people lived multi-tongued of great diversities and many Sameses who, at the Europeans' arrival, still traveled the worn paths of all these accumulated ages. They hunted with the skill of the Neolithics, and the deer, bear, wolf, and turtle were their brothers. They used wild plants with magic incantations and radical ceremonies of Chicose type people, the Chicos people type people who had gathered seeds, nuts, and berries. It's Cochise type people who had gathered nuts. It takes a while for my brain to catch up. Gathered nuts, seeds, and berries in the country long before any knowledge of farming appeared. Trade networks moved obsidian from the Rockies to Ohio. to tobacco from Virginia to St. Lawrence, copper from the present Canadian border to North Carolina, flint and salt and pipestone everywhere. The political structure was the Confederacy, a nucleus of associated bands in hegemony over other bands, and fragments of bands related or not, ex-enemies or ex-allies, ancient or recent acquaintances. Immigration into the tribe was a rule open to all. They sought guidance in the supernatural dreams of their solitary hunter and in the unison prayers of farmers. They raided each other for loot, glory, revenge, or for captives to sacrifice. This is where you get the violence in. They also warned, and that's where we get that cooping in. Remember, we were talking about the cooping. Okay, they also warned a ward at the drop of an arrow over territorial infringement. Sometimes captive killing was embroidered with tattered vestiges of sacrificial ceremonies, including occasional ritual cannibalism and often with fraternized excess of public torture. Here and there, over the spruce and fir of the northern woods, appeared Quetzalcoatl, disguised as the morning star. Various gods were worshipped that were the same under the skin, from the Solomon master of breath, the supreme being, to the deity straight out of the cartoon pantheon, the great rabbit, who went skipping about, setting a chaotic world to rights, playing jokes and getting himself into terrible trouble. Many of the great rabbit's jokes were quite obscene by European standards. The usual Indian attitude towards obscenity and general frequency seems shameless and sinful to European eyes and ears, and still does. Scholarly records of Indian folk tales still make occasional use of Latin paragraphs to veil the dirty passages. Controversially, Indians found many European attitudes, such as not isolating women during menstruation, not only grossly obscene, but so wicked as to be terrifying. Slash and burn cornfields were cultivated as far north as the climate permitted. Nearly all of these forest-dwelling people were confirmed townsmen, although a few groups spent much time wandering and only touched base at a village during certain seasons. Many lived in long barracks-like multi-family houses, some in single-family huts of post and wattle, much like wild Irish. Observed a New Englander, one of the 1620s. Some reckon decent descent by the father, some by the mother. Some organized societies into clans that claim descent from a spirit of an animal, bear perhaps, or buffalo. Some into special societies formed for specific purposes such as warring or healing. Okay, so that was that. I got this one. The Ojibwe. The name refers to a particular puckered seam of their moccasins. Europeans garbled into the Chippewa and stuck it in so precisely that many Ojibways today call themselves Chippewas. Made up of one of the largest nations north of Mexico, with a wild guess population of 25,000 or more. North of them, an almost identical people known as the Cree controlled in the enormous spruce fir country that ran all the way up from Hudson Bay at the eastern end of the Lake Superior at the present Sault de Marie, and the Ojibwe joined with the Ottawa and the Potawatomi in a loose confederacy known to white traders as Three Fires. In the traditions of all three of these tribes, they were originally one, and that not too many centuries ago. Let's see, the Ohio Valley, that had been the heart of the Hopewell burial mound culture some hundreds of years before, had apparently become surprisingly sparse in population since that time. The Miami Confederacy of Indians and Iverons, one of their villages was called Chicago, meaning Skunk Place, and perhaps somewhat more populous Illinois Confederacy to their west was not large in numbers, at any rate in historic times. These people too were of Algonquin speech. The Erie to their east, below Lake Erie, spoke Iroquois dialect. So there you go. I thought that was kind of neat about Chicago. So if you live in Chicago, it was known as Skunk Place.
It probably still is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there you go. Pamela Jean says, in Arizona, we have Indian tribes all around us. I am amazed at how quiet these people are. Yeah, those are like the Hopis there or something in Arizona, according to this book, like offshoots of the Anasazi, I think. They do stay. And there's Gaza Calves in the house. How you doing, Gaza? I'm always thinking of you over there, and I'm going to have one of those roundtable discussions, and I hope that you can come on. I'll be sending you a link one of these days when I get a little time. Maybe coming up soon, within a week. How about that? Anyway, well, we're having a pretty good night. Well, did you catch the name that I was talking about, or the what animal?
It sounded like rabbit.
Yeah, that's right. Wow, you were paying
Blues
attention.
cap.
That's right. Rabbit. Rabbit gets in all kind of mischievous stuff.
And in many stories, rabbit almost takes the place of coyote.
Yeah, it sounded like it.
Yeah. It's been, in looking at all the tales and stuff that I've read over the many years, it's like, it's very, very interesting where rabbit jumps in and.
Yep. Hey, Karen Lynn's in the house. She says adobe brick is made of sand and straw. I'd like to know the recipe of that. How do you get the sand and straw to stick together? Anyway, it's all good. It's all good. I'm glad you're all here. I hope you enjoyed that little bit of history. History is always good to it just tells you that, like I said, like the Toltecs, no matter how good and civilized their society was, it still can come crushing down. It's all because the people have let it come crushing down, if you know what I mean. In not so many words, it's good to look at that, because all societies end up falling and they rebuild themselves, but it takes a long time, and then it all changes. And then the question is, do you want to live in the time when society comes crashing down, or are you willing to go out there and do something about it? Are you willing to, keep it from crumbling and be a civilized society? I guess that's what I'm talking about, because we live in a really good civilized society. For the most part, I would say 90% of the people are really good people. There's only that small percentage out there that are just not really the nicest people. There's something, messed up with them, or they just believe in things that, that we all don't. I don't know about you, but I like my freedom. I like to, do what I want to do. I don't mind working hard. I want to work for what I get. But I don't want people to, get stuff for nothing and then have the same as me because I work so hard for it either.
Right.
And that's a socialist, communist society. Hey, you can become a doctor, but you're going to get the same pay as a janitor. I'd hate to go to that doctor for healthcare.
Right. Well, but I do think that the capitalism thing has gotten out of hand, because in tribal medicine and so forth, the shaman was never given more than was necessary.
Yes.
And so in this day and age, people can't afford a doctor because whatever reasons or whatever, they're so unaffordable. And so, but back in the day, anyone could have a visit from the shaman.
Yeah.
So things have changed drastically in that area. But so I agree with the fact that, you know, like in Russia back in the day, it's not necessarily the same now, but
Mhm.
you know, doctors, everybody was paid the same. Nobody was higher than the other. And in a way, that's not really bad, but to force it upon people is wrong, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, exactly. So that's the thing. You gotta pay attention. Um, and look what happened over there. It came crashing down. It only lasted for so long. If it was such a great thing, they wouldn't they would have just kept going. It would have been a utopia, right? I mean, when the first settlers came to the United States, wasn't that like Jamestown area or something? And they said they were going to set up this kind of utopian socialist society kind of thing, and everybody would get, you know, X amount of stuff, but then nobody wanted to work. They were like, it was like a big commune, and they sent out the people to do stuff, and nobody wanted to work. So they said, fine, everybody fend for yourself, and everybody went out and worked real hard, and they had stuff to trade, and society flourished. But I can't remember exactly what story that is, but it is a true story. And then as soon as they said, you go out and work for what you get, we're not going to give you free stuff anymore, because, you know, two or three people were doing all the work, and the other ones were sitting around going, well, doesn't matter if I hoe the garden, I still got all the vegetables. And what good is that? You know, go out and do something, even if it's a little. You got to do something. And society, that what I'm trying to get with this whole thing is that if you don't want to do, somebody will come in and conquer you, like you know, Quetzalcoatl. You know, his father was one of the barbarians. They came down from the north, and they conquered the societies that were in the Mexican Valley, because they were, you know, easygoing people. And then what did they do? They took them over, and they took their civilized world, they took their tools, they took their knowledge, and they became the great society because they had the drive and the willpower to do so. And the people that were there were set in there was they were kind of, you know, nonchalant, and they pretty much didn't fight back, or they didn't fight back enough. They weren't worried about things like that.
Well, you know, to many of us now, you know, a couple of years ago, we would have never thought that things would be as they are now.
Yeah.
And so native peoples were just so engrossed in their day-to-day life that they just didn't think that anything like some of the stuff that happened. You know, they just like that can't happen. It won't happen here, you know, not in my town, you know, but it's still happening today. I mean, every day we're still going, what? You know, I can't believe this is happening, you know. So, but anyway.
Yeah. Who would ever thought?
One might say they were a little naive, but because they had not encountered certain things ever before and there was no history of it, it surprised the crud out of them, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it did. So what do you got picked out?
Well, not any particular subject, just some stories. So
yeah,
it's not, I'll give you the page number where I'm starting first, and then I'm going to kind of be skipping around a little bit. But number 320, there's a 20, everybody.
Oh, hang on a second. I lost
okay.
my pen. I lost my pen. It's here it is. I got my little writing board, and I gotta take notes. 3.
I'll just go to that page.
I'm gonna go to that page. You got another page for me? And I'll write it down. I got two hands, you know.
Oh, really?
Yes. All right, here we go.
Yeah, the next one will be way down. It'll be like 346, 347. There's a story called Adventures of Great Rabbit.
Shrink this up, and I'm going to move it a little bit because, and then I'm going to make it bigger because I think it was Elderberry or somebody said the last week it was small, And I was like, oh, and I was like, yeah, I guess I can see it good, but you guys can't.
So put your glasses on.
Well, I suppose when it gets on the
I'm
screen,
kidding. I'm kidding. Put your dang glasses on.
well, you put 2 pair on for all of us.
I will in just a minute.
320, 18, 19, 320.
The greedy father.
The greedy father.
And I didn't, sometimes there, stuff comes to me. Today, it was sort of like, and maybe it was the mood or whatever I was in,
Yeah.
that I was just kind of bouncing around. And so
yeah.
this is bouncing around stories without any particular modus operandi behind it.
That's all right. That's all right.
Okay. Tell me when we're ready. Let me get a sip of drink.
I am ready. I am ready.
Oakley dokley. Pause for the cause. Okay. The greedy father. And it's from Karok tribe. Famine descended and the people were hungry. A man decided he would go fishing to get food for his family. He left the house at dawn, and as the sun rose, it shone on the water. Suddenly, the string attached to the fish net quivered. The man hauled out the net and discovered a huge salmon, which he put down in back of the fishery. Then he thought, I'm so hungry, I think I'll just cook it up right now. So he cleaned it and cut off the tail, putting it to one side. Then he cooked the salmon, and when he devoured it all, only realizing afterwards what he had done. When he went home just carrying the tail. When he was some distance from home, he began shouting, "Here, children, this is the tail. There were a lot of beggars on the way who got the rest." Then the children ran out shouting, "Hooray, we're going to eat! Hooray, we're going to eat!" The next day he went fishing again. Again, he caught a big salmon, and he ate it on the spot. Again, he went home and shouted, "Here, children, this is the tail." There were a lot of beggars. Now his wife began to suspect that he was holding out on him. When he went fishing again the next day, she told her children, "You stay here, I'll follow him." When she arrived at the fishery, he had just pulled out a big salmon. He cut off the tail and put it down a little way off. Then he made a fire and cooked it. He was just about to eat it. The woman ran back upriver and she gathered her children together and told them they were leaving. They climbed uphill, and when the father returned, they heard him shouting below, "Here, children, this is the tail. There were a lot of beggars." But he heard only silence. He shouted again. He ran indoors and found only mice squeaking. Then he jumped out of the house, still shouting about the tail and the beggars. He looked uphill and finally saw where they had climbed. His wife shouted down to him, "Eat alone there, just like you have been all along." He followed them, getting closer and closer and still shouting. When he caught up with them, his wife told him, "You'll be eating only mud in the creeks, but we will be sitting around in front of rich people." And he reached out to grab the littlest one, but the child turned into a bear lily. He grabbed another one and it turned into a hazel bush. He grabbed the wife, she turned into a pine tree. Finally, he fell back down to the banks of the water, and you'll see him like that now, eating mud on the edge of the creeks. He became a water owl, a small gray bird, which we call moss eater. But his wife and his children line up in front of rich people, baskets in the deer skin. Based upon a tale reported by William Bright in 1957.
Well, doesn't that beat all?
Yeah, well, they were always fed.
Well,
because because of the ground and Mother Earth. And he ended up, eating mud, which is just an interesting, like, ooh, okay. And there are a lot of stories about how you eat mud. I mean, just it's like what eating mud. So there was a story. Where did this idea of eating mud come from? It was centuries old.
Yes. Yes. Well,
Okay.
we're going to next? I got to get my page number here set up, and maybe I can actually do that. Oh, we're gonna go down to what, 346? You said
344, and then 346.
I jumped a little bit ahead. Oh, 344. No. The Raven?
Yes.
The Raven. Okay, hang on a second. Oh, okay. I gotta shrink that, and then I can make it bigger. Anyway, let's see. What was I gonna say? Oh, yeah. Well, see, I guess they got a thing for all those little birds and dealies, you know. You know what I mean? How do you explain the buffalo? How do you explain the little mud bird? What, how do you explain all that stuff? I guess that's how I'd see it.
Yeah, and that, for example, bear used to have a long, beautiful tail, and then Coyote and them tricked him because he was such a braggart, and he lost his tail. So bear to this day just has a little stubby tail. So I mean, be careful what being a braggart or egotistical, or like this man who basically stole from his children, his wife, his family, and so ended up eating alone, and eating mud at that. So
that's for sure. Okay.
All right, so this is
go.
the Raven, and it's an Athapascan.
Oh,
story.
Shoot. Hang on a second. I got to get back to this part here. Okay.
Oh, I was just given how old it was.
There we go. I want to make sure I got that. Okay. Oops, crap. That ain't what I want. Hit the wrong button. Okay. There we go. When I hit the thing, it changed. I don't know why it changed. Okay, we're good. Pretty sure. I got the right thing up there. The Raven. We're good to go now.
Okay.
Too many clicks. I think my little, you got that clicky finger. It just wants to click on everything.
Yep. Okay, this is Athapascan, and it was retold from an account in the Journal of American Folklore in 1900. So some of these stories go back as a ways. I mean, that's over 100 some years right there. But anyway, the Raven. Among a number of Athapascan speaking tribes of the Northwest Coast and Alaskan tribes, Raven is not only a powerful supernatural creator, but also a trickster. There once lived an old couple who wished to see their only daughter married to a rich man. When anyone arrived at their camp, the old man sent his son down to the landing to count the bone heads on the stranger's clothing so that he could be received according to his rank. One day, the boy came running in saying that a man had come who would make a good brother-in-law, for he had a number of fine beads. The mother went down to the riverbank and saw a richly dressed stranger whom she also thought would make a suitable husband. She noticed that the shore was wet and muddy, so she got some bark and tore it into strips for the stranger to walk upon. She invited him to enter their teepee and seated him next to the girl. The visitor pointed to a dog that was tied in the corner of the lodge and said, "I can't eat while that animal is in here." Thinking that only a very great personage would be so particular, the woman took the dog out into the forest and killed it. The next morning, as she went for food, she noticed that the earth around the dog's body was marked with bird tracks and that his eyes had been pecked out. She returned to the camp and insisted that all the people take off their moccasins and showed their feet, because she had learned that Raven could deceive people by appearing in human form. The stranger, who was indeed Raven, took his moccasins off and slipped them on again so quickly that his scaly bird feet were not noticed. The girl who had agreed to marry Raven, and he demanded that she leave with him at once before he could be found out. Promising that they would return in a few days, he took his bride down to his canoe. As soon as the couple set off down the river, it began to rain. Raven was seated in front of the woman, who noticed that the rain was washing something white off his back. This made her suspicious, and she resolved to escape. Reaching forward, she succeeded in tying the tail of Raven's coat to a crossbar of the canoe. Then she asked to be set ashore for a minute, saying that she would come right back. Her husband told her not to go far, but she started to run for home as soon as she was out of sight among the trees. After a while, Raven decided to follow her. He found that his tail was tied, and to get free, he had to resume his true form. As he flew over the girl, he cried out, "Once more I cheat you," and then cawed and glided away. The girl got home safely and told her mother that her rich husband was Raven, who had come to them covered with lime, which the rain had melted. Raven was always cheating the people, so they finally took his beak away from him. After a time, he went up the river and made a raft, which he loaded with moss, floating down to the camps on it. He told the people that his head was sore where his beak had been torn off, and that he was lying in the moss to cool it. Then he went back upriver and made several more rafts. When the people saw these floating down towards them, they thought that a large group of warriors was coming to help Raven regain his beak. So they held a council and decided to send a young girl to take the beak to an old woman who lived alone at some distance from the camp. Raven, who had concealed himself from them and heard the council's plans, waited until the girl came back. Then he went to the old woman and told her that the girl wanted her to return the beak to him. Suspecting nothing, the old woman gave him his beak. He put it on and flew away, cawing with pleasure at his success. The warriors who had been on the rafts proved to be nothing but the tufts of hammocks of bog moss, which are commonly known as tetes de femmes. But anyway, so there you go. So, but interestingly enough, what I saw in this story was that that Raven was being the trickster. And that, even good tricksters can be found out, But in his revenge, though, he scared the crud out of the people downriver by sending these fake rafts down. So all these people put all their energies in all this. So in our life today, there are things in the news and stuff that we could consider being rafts with nothing on them. Or they're, you know what I mean? So
yeah, fake news.
In this story, I was like, wow, he tricked the tribes by, oh my God, here's another raft. Holy crap, something's coming. And there was nothing there. So, we have those types of things going on all the time currently. So whether it's Raven or not, but it seems like humanity in some way, it's almost like they copy some of these stories. It's just really strange. But anyway, so we're on 346.
Yes, 346. That's the next one.
Okay, I thought I would read the Bluebird and Coyote. It's a really short story, and then I'll do Adventures of Great Rabbit next, which is just next in line. Okay.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds real good.
This is Bluebird and Coyote, and it's the Pima. The bluebird was once a very ugly color, but there was a lake where no river flowed in or out, and the bird bathed in it 4 times every morning for 4 mornings. Every morning it sang, "There's a blue water, it lies there. I went in, I am all blue." On the fourth morning, it shed all of its feathers and came out of the lake in its bare skin. But on the fifth morning, it came out with blue feathers. All this while, Coyote had been watching the bird. He wanted to jump in and get it, but he was afraid of the water. On that fifth day morning, he said, "How is it that all your ugly colors has come out and now you are blue and gay and beautiful? You're more beautiful than anything that flies in the air. I want to be blue too." Coyote was at that time a bright green. "I went in 4 times," said the bird, "and taught Coyote the song." So Coyote went in 4 times, and on the fifth time, he came out as blue as the little bird. That made him feel very proud. As he walked along, he looked on every side to see if anyone was noticing how fine and blue he was. He looked to see if his shadow was blue too, and so he was not watching the road. Presently, he ran into a stump so hard that it threw him down in the dirt, and he became dust colored all over. And to this day, all coyotes are the color of dirt. This is a story reported by Frank Russell in 1908.
Now that was a good one. That was really good.
It's short and to the point too, but
Yeah.
So the next one up is The Adventures of Great Rabbit. Now it's a couple of pages long, but it's not really long. And how we doing on time? Yeah, we got this. This will be the last one.
We got
enough time. I think we got enough time to get through this one.
See, you got a rabbit story. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
And this is Algonquin. Adventures of Great Rabbit. Among the Micmac and the Passamaquoddy of the northeast coast is Mahatigwes, the rabbit, who is a powerful trickster. Rabbit has Tulan great magical powers. Wildcat is mean and ferocious. He has a short tail and a big, long, sharp fangs, and his favorite food is rabbit. One day when Wildcat was hungry, he said to himself, "I'm going to catch and eat me Magagwius, the great rabbit himself. He's plump and smart, and nothing else will do for me for my dinner." So he went hunting for the great rabbit. Now, great rabbit can sense what others are thinking from a long way off. So he already knew that Wildcat was after him. He made up his mind that he would use his magic power against Wildcat's strength. He picked up a handful of wood chips, threw them ahead of himself, and jumped after them. And because Great Rabbit is Mem Tualang, a magician, I think, every jump was a mile. Jumping that far, of course, he left very few tracks to follow. Wildcat swore a mighty oath that he would catch Great Rabbit and that he would find him even if the Great Rabbit had fled to the end of the world. At that time, Wildcat had a beautiful long tail, and he swore by it. "Let my tail fall off. May I have just a little stump for a tail if I fail to catch Great Rabbit." After a mile, he found rabbit tracks. After another mile, he found more tracks. Wildcat was not altogether without magic either, and he was preserving. So mile by mile, he kept on Rabbit's tail. In fact, Wildcat was drawing closer and closer. It grew dark, and Great Rabbit grew tired. He was on a wide, empty plain of snow, and there was nothing to hide him except a little spruce tree. He stomped the snow and made himself a seat and a bed of spruce boughs. When Wildcat came to that spot, he found a fine, big wigwam and stuck his head through the door. Sitting inside was an old gray-haired chief, solemn and mighty. The only strange thing about him was that he had 2 long ears standing up at each side of his head. "Rabbits? Why, of course, there are hundreds, thousands of rabbits hereabouts. But what's the hurry? It's late and you must be tired. If you want to hunt rabbits, The start of the morning after a good night's sleep. I'm a lonely man and enjoying the company of a respected personage like you. Stay overnight. I have a fine rabbit stew cooking here. Wildcat Wildcat was flattered. Big Chief, I am honored, he said, and he ate a whole kettle full of tasty rabbit stew and then fell asleep before the roaring fire. Wildcat awoke early because he was freezing. He found himself alone in the midst of a huge snowfield. Nothing was there, no wigwam, no fire, no chief. All he could see were a few little spruce boughs. It had been a dream, an illusion created by Great Rabbit's magic. Even the stew had been an illusion, and Wildcat was ravenous. Shivering in the icy wind, Wildcat howled. Rabbit has tricked me again, but I'll get even with him. By my tail, I swear, I'll catch it, kill him, and eat him. Again, Great Rabbit traveled with his mile-wide jumps, and again Wildcat followed closely. At nightfall, Rabbit said to himself, time to rest and conjure something up. This time he trampled down a large area and spread out many pine boughs around. When Wildcat arrived, he found a large village full of busy people, though of what tribe he couldn't tell. He also saw a big wooden church painted white, the kind the French Jesuits were putting up among some of the tribes. Wildcat went up to a young man who was about to enter the church. Friend, have you seen a biggish rabbit hereabouts running away? Quiet, said the young man. We're having a prayer meeting. Wait until the sermon is over. The young man went into the church and the Wildcat followed him. There were lots of people sitting and listening to a gray-haired preacher. The only thing strange was the two long ears sticking up at each side of the priest's cap. He was preaching a very, very long sermon about the wickedness of ferocious wild beasts who tear up victims with their big, sharp fangs and then devour them. Such savage friends will be punished for their sins, said this preacher over and over. Wildcat didn't like the long sermon, but he had to wait all the same. When the preaching was over at last, he went up to the priest with the long ears and asked, Sir, have you seen a very scared, biggish rabbit hereabouts? Rabbits, exclaimed the preacher. We have a wet, foggy cedar swamp nearby with thousands of rabbits. Well, I don't mean just any rabbit. I'm speaking of Great Rabbit. Oh, of him I know nothing, friend. But over there in that big wigwam lives the wise old chief, the Sagamore. Go and ask him. He knows everything. Wildcat went to the wigwam and found the Sagamore, an imposing figure, gray-haired like the preacher, with long white locks sticking up on each side of his head. Young man, said the Sagamore gravely, what can I do for you? Well, I'm looking for the biggest great rabbit. Ah, him! He's hard to find and hard to catch. Tonight it's too late, but tomorrow I'll help you. Sit down, dear man. My daughters will give you a fine supper. The Sagamore's daughters were beautiful. They brought Wildcat many large wooden bowls of the choicest foods, and he ate it all up because by now he was very hungry. The warmth of the fire in his full stomach made him drowsy, and the Sagamore's daughter brought him a thick white bearskin to sleep on. You people really know how to treat a guest, said Wildcat as he fell asleep. When he awoke, he found himself in a dismal, wet, foggy cedar swamp. Nothing was there except mud and icy slush and a lot of rabbit tracks. There was no village, no church, no wigwam, no Sagamore, no beautiful daughters. They had all been a mirage conjured up by Great Rabbit. The fine food had been a mirage too, and Wildcat's stomach was growling. He was ankle deep in the freezing swamp. The fog was so thick he could hardly see anything. Enraged, he vowed to find and kill the Great Rabbit, even if he should die in the attempt. He swore by his tail, his teeth, his claws, buy everything dear to him, and then he hastened on. That night, Wildcat came to a big longhouse. Inside, it was like a great hall, and it was full of people. On the high seat sat the chief, who wore two long white feathers at each side of his head. This venerable leader also had beautiful daughters who fed all comers, for Wildcat had stumbled into the midst of a great feast. Exhausted and panting, he gasped, "Has anyone seen the great rabbit?" "Later, friend," said the chief with the two white feathers. "We are feasting, dancing, singing. You seem exhausted, poor man. Sit down, catch your breath, eat, rest." Wildcat sat down. The people were having a singing contest, and the chief on his high seat pointed at Wildcat and said, "Our guest here looks like a fine singer. Perhaps he will honor us with a song." Wildcat was flattered. He arose and sang, "Rabbits, how I hate them, how I despise them, how I laugh at them, how I kill them, how I scalp them, how I eat them." "A truly wonderful song," said the chief. "I must reward you for it. Here's what I give you." And with that, the chief jumped up from his high seat, jumped over Wildcat's head, struck him with a blow from his tomahawk, kept on jumping with mile-long leaps, and all was gone. The longhouse, the hall, the people, the daughters, none remained. Once more, Wildcat found himself alone in the middle of nowhere, worse off than ever, for he had a gash in his scalp where Great Rabbit had hit him with the tomahawk. His feet were sore, his stomach empty. He could hardly crawl, but he was more infuriated than ever. "I'll kill him," he growled. "I'll give my life, and the tricks are over. He won't fool me again." That night, Wildcat came to two beautiful wigwams. In the first was a young woman, obviously a chief's daughter. In the other was someone whom Wildcat took for her father, as an elderly, gray-haired, gentle-looking man with two scalp locks sticking up at the sides of his head. "Come on in, come in," said poor man, said the gray-haired host. "You're wounded. My daughter will wash and cure that cut, and we must build up your strength. I have a fine broth here and a pitcher full of wine, the drink Frenchmen make. It has a great restorative powers." But the Wildcat was suspicious. "If this is Great Rabbit in disguise again, he won't fool me," he promised himself. "Dear sir," said Wildcat, "I hesitate to mention it, but the two scalp locks sticking up at the sides of your head look very much like rabbit ears." "Rabbit ears? Well, how funny," said the old man. "No, friend, that in our tribe, we all wear our scalp locks this way." "Ah," said Wildcat, "but your nose is split exactly like a rabbit's nose." "Don't remind me, friend. Some weeks ago, I was hammering wampum beads, and the stone I was using to pound them on broke in half. A sharp piece flew up and split my nose. A great misfortune, because it does disfigure me." "It does indeed, a pity. But why are your soles so yellow, like a rabbit's soles?" "Oh, that's nothing. I prepared some tobacco yesterday, and the juice stained my palms yellow." Then Wildcat said to himself, "This man is no rabbit." The old man called his daughter, who washed Wildcat's wound, put a healing salve into it, and bathed his face. Then the old man gave him a wonderfully strengthening broth and a large pitcher of sweet wine. "This wine is really good," said Wildcat, "the first I ever tasted. Yes, these white people, these Frenchmen, are very clever at making good things to drink." When Wildcat awoke, he found, of course, that he had been tricked again. The food he had eaten was rabbit pellets. The wine was stale water in a half-wilted pitcher. in a half-wilted pitcher plant. Now, it was only his great hatred that kept Wildcat going, but go he did like a streak on Rabbit's tail. Mahigwis, the great rabbit, had only enough magic power to left for one more trick. So he said to himself, this time I better make it good. Great Rabbit came to a big lake and threw a chip of wood into the water. Immediately, it turned into a towering ship, the kind white men build, with tall sides, 3 masts, white sails, and colored flags. That ship was pierced on each side with 3 rows of heavy cannons. When Wildcat arrived at the lake, he saw the big ship with its crew. On deck was the captain, a gray-haired man with a large gold-trimmed cocked hat that had fluffy white plumes right and left. Rabbit, cried Wildcat, I know you. You're no French captain. You're Great Rabbit. I know you, Montequis. I am the mighty Wildcat, and I'm coming to scalp you and kill you now. And with that, Wildcat jumped into the lake and swam towards the ship. Then the captain, who indeed was Montequis, the Great Rabbit, ordered his men to fire their muskets and the 3 rows of heavy cannon. Bullets went whistling by Wildcat. Cannonballs flew towards him. The whole world was splitting thunder and fire. Wildcat had never before faced white man's firearms. They were entirely new to him. It didn't matter that the ship, captain, muskets, and cannonballs, bullets, fire, noise, and smoke were merely an illusion conjured up by Rabbit. To Wildcat, they were real, and he was scared to death. He swam back to shore and ran away. And if he hasn't died, he's running still. And yes, as Wildcat has sworn by his tail to catch and kill Rabbit, his tail fell off. And ever since then, this kind of big cat has a short, stumpy tail and is called Bobcat. Based on an account by Charles Leland, 1884.
That's good. I like that one. That is good, man. That was a good one.
It was a little long, but it shows how Rabbit every time, Wildcat, thought he had him. Oh no, you're not going to get me this time, and he got him again anyway. But it shows, in a way, it shows you and me, because it shows that we are wildcats in a way, but that we swear we'll never be tricked again.
Oh yeah.
Think about current events. And are we being tricked again? I mean, you just have to look at some of these stories. That's why I just kind of jumped around and I was like, this just seems appropriate.
Well, like you said, the great spirits will point you in the right direction, and they always do. Speaking of that, that's exactly right, though. People get tricked all the time over. I mean, how many people fall for those things like, hey, you won the $1 million. You just send us $500 and we'll send you $1 million, and people do it all the time. Don't be fooled. I know nobody in our audience would do that, but, still, when people get desperate and they're looking for hope, they will do those kinds of things. And when you're like Bobcat was, he was angry, and his anger and his hunger were defeating him, because he was so frustrated that he couldn't see what was right in front of his face. Each time Rabbit was right there in front of him, and yet he looked right at him and he was like, well, sure, give me some food and I'll lay down and I'll sleep and it's warm and but it was all an illusion. And then he was more mad than ever. But each time, he was so angry he couldn't see what was right in front of his face.
And that's like us sometimes too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are things that frustrate us to no end, and we're not going to put up with this, and well, no, everything's fine, and and we trust again, and we get we get we get snatched right back into reality, much like Bobcat did.
Yeah, definitely.
But there are many stories, and the other thing too is he had swore. He swore by my tail, which was important to him. But so be careful what you swear you're going to do or whatever, because that might backfire on you.
Yeah, it's like
other circumstances might come into your life that you had not foreseen, and so you swear you're going to do something, and then a bus hits you, basically. And you go, wait a minute, I wasn't counting on that. Well, you swore you were going to do this, and now what are you going to do? And the bus is a metaphor, but you could get hit by a bus. But to the point, if you be careful how I swear I'm going to do this. Okay, just be careful.
Well, speaking of all of that, Bobcat and Rabbit and Raven and all that, how about a card?
I knew it. I was sitting here looking at it.
It wouldn't be a complete show if you didn't pull a card.
It's coming. Here comes, All right, so I got to warn everybody. It's a good warning, but I got to warn y'all. I'm in one of those silly, weird moods, so I hope it doesn't affect the cards. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell is this? Anyway. Like I might find a moose turd or something, but anyway.
Whichever one comes up, and that's the one we need to hear from.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me give my shuffle or two here. I'm hoping that everybody's doing all right out there. And
Isby just popped in, and Lucky Stone is here, and Michelle Can-Am Free, and Scotty Boy, and I think there's a lot of people. Or Pamela Jean, she had to leave. She said good night. Gaza Cav, I think he's listening, and I'm saying, take back your country. And I'm with you there, man. I'm with you. Let's see who else is in the house. Oh, Dar Smile. Hey, how you doing? I didn't see you there. I can't see the screen when I share, so I only got 2 screens. I got 3 screens, but I can't use the 3rd screen because this just doesn't work on this computer. So other than that, I got to use my phone if I want a 3rd screen. Sometimes I do, but hey, that's the way it is. Well, what do you got? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Rabbit. Rabbit. How ironic. Ironic.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
It's a rabbit night.
What? But it's the second card, but the primary card, but it was like Rabbit had to say hello since we were talking about him, so.
Yeah, well, I talked about Rabbit and my stuff, and then you had a rabbit story, and here's the card for tonight, everybody. It's gonna be Rabbit.
Well,
Let's hear about Rabbit.
It's one of them, but actually the main card is Fox.
Fox and Rabbit, they go together.
Fox is number 25 for the number thingy.
It would have been really ironic if it was Bobcat and Rabbit.
There isn't a Bobcat card.
Oh well.
But there is a Wildcat kind of thing.
Wildcat card.
But instead of Coyote, there's a Fox card. So it was oh, well, there's a canine,
I can't believe there's a Coyote. They're not a Coyote card. Huh, that's interesting.
Bobcat.
Or Bobcat. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a Bobcat card. Other folks have asked me about this. There's not a Bobcat card, which is like, huh? But anyway. Fox is camouflage.
Travis the Brick. Hey, how you doing?
So Fox, where are you? Under the ferns, becoming the forest, so I can learn? Are you watching, invisible to me, trying to teach me how to become a tree? So the wily fox has many allies in the woodlands, including the foliage. which offers protection and much medicine. Fox is seemingly able to vanish amidst the lush undergrowth of the forest. This flora is a fox's ally. The ability to meld into one's surroundings. Listen closely to this, folks. The ability to meld into one's surroundings and be unnoticed is a powerful gift when one is observing the activities of others. Now, right now, with all the things that are going on the planet, you know, we may not want to like stand out in the crowd, but we absolutely need to observe. Another natural gift of fox is the ability to adapt to winter by changing color, like the chameleon. Its rich white winter coat allows fox to blend into the snow when the leaves no longer linger. Fox medicine involves adaptability, cunning, observation, and cunning, observation, integration, and swiftness of thought and action. These traits may also include quick decisiveness and sure-footedness in the physical world. Fox's ability to be unseen allows it to be the protector of the family unit. If danger arises, Fox is Johnny on the spot. Great Spirit in the Choctaw language honors Fox with the duty of keeping the family together and safe. And we are family, so we need to stay safe. This is accomplished through Fox's ability to observe undetected. Without making others self-conscious, Fox is always concerned with the safety of family members and is an excellent talisman for those traveling far afield. If Fox has chosen to share its medicine with you, it is a sign that you are to become like the wind, which is unseen, yet is able to weave into and through any location or situation. You would be wise to observe the acts of others rather than their words at this time. They want me to repeat that. If Fox has chosen to share its medicine with you, it is a sign that you are to become like the wind, which is unseen, yet is able to weave in and through any location or situation. You would be wise to observe the acts of others rather than their words at this time. So that's a clear warning in my humble opinion. So they'll be saying one thing and doing another, kind of like rabbit. If Fox has chosen to share its medicine, I'm sorry, I lost one. Use your cunning nature in a positive way. Keep silent about who and what and why you are observing. In learning the art of camouflage, you need to test your abilities to pull this off. One test or exercise that may be helpful to you in deciding to be invisible. In doing this exercise, you might try to visualize your body as part of your surroundings, full of colors of the location you're in. See yourself in your mind's eye, moving with stealth and grace, unheeded by others. If you do it right, it works. I can attest to that. You can leave a party unnoticed or become an unobtrusive as a piece of furniture, watching the developing drama of the subjects you are studying. While learning from Fox, you might also gain confidence in your ability to know instantly what will happen next. After observing for a while, you'll become aware of certain predictability in any given situation and be able to quickly make your move. They want me to read that part. After observing for a while, you will become aware of a certain predictability in any given situation and be able to quickly make your move. Fox medicine teaches the art of oneness through its understanding of camouflage. This applies on all levels from rocks to God. With Fox medicine, you're being asked to see all types of uses for oneness. Much like the clowns at a rodeo, Fox can keep the raging bull from stampeding a friend or family member. Fox can use silly tactics as a brilliant camouflage move. No one could guess the sly power behind such ingenious maneuvers. But the key thing about this, with things that are happening in our world, whatever your neighborhood is, and I've talked about this on my show, that one of the things looking forward is that we're just going to have to learn to be able to adapt, and we might have to learn how to adapt quickly. Them poor folks that had that tornado go through, up there the other day, them folks had to adapt really fast to a very bad situation. But so for me, this message is, the camouflage is just being quiet and watching stuff, but anyway, I do see it as a, not necessarily a warning, but as, it is a useful talent to have. Now, Rabbit, we've read Rabbit many times, and Rabbit calls fear to him. And it is a straight up rabbit. So it's like, scared little rabbit, please drop your fright. Running doesn't stop the pain or turn dark to light. A long time ago, Rabbit, there's a long story about how he traveled with basically a witch. And when he was hungry, she struck a rock and gave him, and it turned into a turnip, and he ate it. And then later on, when he was tired and stuff, she made a fire. And anyway, and so, and at the end, then they were going uphill, and he slipped and fell all the way down the mountain, and she came down and healed him. And then Rabbit just disappeared. And one day, the witch was walking through the woods one day, and she came upon Rabbit, and she was like, we're good friends. How come you're trying to stay away from me? And he said, because I'm scared. I'm afraid of your magic. So she said, but I gave you a turnip, I did this, I gave you water, and I healed you, but I'm scared of you. So Rabbit said, I, Walker, we once were great friends and companions, but no more. It is within my power to destroy you, but because of our past and the medicine we have shared together, I will not do this. But from this day forward, I lay a curse on you and your tribe. From now on, you will call your fears, and your fears will come to you. Be on your way, for the sweet medicine that has bound us together as friends is broken. Now, Rabbit is the fear caller. He goes out and shouts, Eagle, I am so afraid of you. If Eagle doesn't hear him, Rabbit calls out louder, Eagle, stay away from me. Eagle, now hearing the rabbit, comes down and eats him. Rabbit calls bobcats, wolves, coyotes, and even snakes until they come. Here is the lesson. If you pulled Rabbit, stop talking about horrible things happening. I've talked about this recently, but stop talking about horrible things happening and get rid of what if in your vocabulary. This card may signal a time of worry about the future, and we all are, or of trying to exercise your control over that which is not yet in form, the future. Stop it now. Write your fears down and be willing to feel them. Breathe into them and feel them running through your body into Mother Earth as a giveaway. Stop talking about horrible things happening that hasn't happened yet. And get rid of what if this might happen to me in your vocabulary.
So live in the now.
This card may signal a time of worry about the future or of trying to exercise control over that which is not yet in form, the future. So I've been kind of giving this message myself in that, for this coming year, what do you want for the new year? Have a good year. And all kinds of stuff behind that simple sentence, but they can't steal our message. They can't break it down. That 4 words has a melody to it. And I've talked about this before, but the cards keep coming back to kind of like, hey, folks, please don't call fear to you.
Mhm.
Well, what if this happens? What if the economy breaks down? What if the supply chain? Stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it, because you're making it happen. You're
Yes.
calling fear to all of us, you know. So,
Yeah.
but anyways,
I do the same thing. It's like, I don't want to be fearful. So I just tell myself, I'm prepared. Bring it on. What the heck? You know, if that's the way it is, it's going to be, I'm prepared. I'm not worried. I'm not scared. I'm not worried. Whatever's going to happen, I'm prepared. And, you know, I can make it through. I will be strong and I'll be brave and I'll be true. And I will make it through to the other side. I say that to myself all the time.
yeah. But, you know, I mean, for those of us, you know, some folks really believe that this is really horribly terrible, you know, this, oh my God, right? And, you know, but if you live in that fear, if enough people are living in it and they're trying it again, they're just like rabbit, third time, you know.
Yeah.
So if we call the fear upon us, though, then whatever the consequences are, we brought it on ourselves. I mean,
we did.
you know, but for those of us who kind of understand what this means, basically, it's very simple. Be prepared, adapt. Like the Fox said card, adaptability. That's what's in our future. Learn to be adaptable. That's all. What do you know what's coming? No, but if you're basically prepared and you're sure of yourself that if a situation comes along one way or the other, you're going to handle it. That's all. Do you know what or how or why or whatever? No. But for me, it's like I have gotten myself into so many situations. I don't necessarily stand in the field going, come on, bring it on. But if something does come, I'm okay, you know, I've handled all these other things in my life. I can probably handle this. And if I don't, well, I tried.
Sure.
I tried. So the best we can do is try, you know, but be honest with yourself. If you think there's something you need to learn or a book you need to get or something like that, follow your instincts. But keep it simple for the future and stay out of the what ifs.
Yes. I need a little of that every now and then because I get there. I do. I say that and I got to snap out of it. Somebody I know catches me on that all the time.
Yeah, but you know, we're human. But
yes.
The thing is, and for me as well, many years ago, you know, I lived in the fear all the time. And it really drains your energy. Then you're not prepared if you're afraid all the time. Yeah. So, but if you just say, okay, I'm good, whatever comes my way, I'm going to observe it like the fox. I'm going to sit over here on the side and pay attention and look what's going on around me. And then if fear does come, then you can handle it. Mm-hmm. Be brave. Be brave, my friends, you know.
Exactly. I love it. Well, that has been a long show. We did about an hour and a half. Our hour shows last an hour and a half, believe it or not. But you know, I sure do love them. We have such a good time. We tell these good stories, a little bit of history, and you just can't beat it. And then you get a card in the end. So, you know, well, anyway, we got some really good shows. This is my spiel for this week here. We got some good shows. We got Nina the Mystic coming on Saturday, everyone. And then on Sunday, we're going to have a special show with Preston Dennett, who's coming on, who's going to talk about astral travel. Look him up. He's got a bunch of books. He talks about UFOs. He must have wrote 20 books. Talks about UFOs, Bigfoot, you know, astral healing, aliens healing. He talks a little bit astro travel. I got his book on astro travel, and I'm reading that now, and it's really great. I can't wait to really get into it and really read a bunch of it. So be prepared. If you want, go on to Amazon or check out Rex Bear on Leap Project. No, wasn't it Leap Project? No, it was actually Raised by Giants. Sorry. Raised by Giants. Go over to Ryder Lee's, check out Preston Dennett. and he did a great interview over there, and you'll find out all about him. And he's coming on here. And if you got any questions, email me, and we'll ask those questions on air, and we'll find out about astro travel. So my big question is, has any of you astro traveled out there? And if you have, email me with your experiences. I would love to hear them. And there you go. David, have you ever astro traveled?
Yes, many times.
Wow. I'm going to have to hear about that. Next show, though. We're running long on the tooth.
Right.
All right, everybody. And so we'll see you again. We'll see you on Saturday. Saturday it is, everybody. Love you all. Remember, be the frequency you want to receive. Peace, everybody.
Cheers.
All right. There we go.